Good morning, Year 3. Today we're going to be carrying on with our writing project. Now, I know some of you still find writing tricky and you get a bit nervous when we're doing writing, but there is value in doing something that is difficult. And to prove that to you, I'm going to be keeping my eye out for anyone who is working really hard this week and submits excellent work. And to those people who either achieve a target, show a great improvement, or just create a fantastic story, there will be rewards up for grabs such as Sapphire and Emerald rewards, maybe even a Gold reward. So I just want you to keep focused this week, try your best, and hopefully I'm going to have some fantastic stories to read before the weekend. Before we carry on with the lesson, let's make sure we're ready for the day. Jade and Indigo, you're not doing this lesson. You can if you want to, but you've already done writing in your earlier lesson with Mr. Goodall, so you can go and have a break or go on to your next lesson. Everybody else who's not in Jade and Indigo, you do need to do this lesson today, but before you do, can you make sure that you have completed yesterday's lesson on story planning? If you have not completed yesterday's lesson, if you missed it for some reason, you need to first go back and do that lesson because you need your story plan with you today. So if you've already done that lesson, can you please make sure that you have your story plan in front of you? I have it on my screen right there, and you can have it on a piece of paper. Just make sure you have it ready and complete. Before we write the date and LI, today you need to be writing on lined paper. So in a second on the screen, I'm going to show you how I've written my date and LI on lined paper. If you don't have lined paper, please just draw some lines using a ruler onto a piece of plain paper. The reason is we're going to need to write really neatly and practice our presentation for this writing project. So if you don't have lined paper, it's going to be very difficult. So once you have your lined paper, please can you write the date and LI. The date is the 12th of May 2020 and the LI is to write the beginning of a story. Hello, so if you are back with me and watching my face, it means you have already written your date and LI down on a piece of lined paper and you can see your plan right in front of you. I'm going to show you the plan that I did for my own story. So yesterday when we practiced planning, I was using the model of Evie in the Jungle to show you how to plan. But then while you were all at home writing your own plans, I decided I want to write my own story because, you know, story writing is fun. So I came up with my own idea and I'm going to show you a bit of it now. Let's get my face out of the way first. So here's my story so far. As you can see, I've planned it in short sentences and phrases as much as I can. I've not given too much detail and I've followed the structure of setting, character, build-up, problem, reaction, resolution, and the end. So the setting, I've put present-day London, and there's someone called Alia who's at school. So it's a school in London, that's my setting. The character is Alia, her power is that her tears can heal people, and I've also put this word compassionate because that's the type of character she is, so that's going to drive the story, what type of a person she is. In the build-up, I've said Alia discovers her power, so actually in Evie in the Jungle, at the beginning of the story, we already know Evie's special power, and so does she. But I decided in my story, at the beginning, Alia doesn't actually know she has this special power, but she's going to discover it in the build-up. So someone's going to be hurt in the playground and she's going to heal them with her tears, and then she's going to realise that she has this special power. So that's my beginning. Okay, so we've got the setting, character, and build-up. So the first thing the character does is discover their power. Then we get to the middle. The middle has a problem, and you can see I've been inspired by what's going on in the news at the moment. So in this story, just like in the present day, there is an outbreak of the coronavirus. So that's the problem that needs to be resolved. The reaction is that Alia decides she has to get to hospital as quickly as possible because she wants to help heal people. But obviously no one knows she has this special power, so she probably has to persuade everyone. So once she's persuaded everyone that she has a power, we get to the ending. So the resolution is that she manages to get to the hospital and she cures as many people as she can. And thanks to her curing, the pandemic is over. So that's how the problem of the coronavirus outbreak got resolved. And in the very end, what happens to all the characters? Well, everyone in the hospital goes home, but Alia needs to drink a lot of water because she's very dehydrated from crying all the time to heal everybody. So that's my story plan. What are we going to do with it? Well, we're going to be using our plans to help us to actually write the beginning of the story. There's two things we're going to do. Before we go ahead and just start writing our story, we're going to brainstorm some different words and phrases that are really going to help us in our writing. Normally, the beginning of the story is a lot about description because you really need to set the image in the reader's head of what's going on. If you don't describe it properly, the reader won't be able to imagine it well. So the beginning of the story focuses a lot on description. We need to describe the setting, we need to describe the character. So first things first, we're going to do a brainstorm of how we can describe this setting and this character. All the time when I'm writing my story or I'm thinking of ideas, I need to keep my plan in front of me and I need to keep looking back at it so that I don't forget what my whole story plan is. Otherwise my brain's going to explode from thinking about all these different things at once. Okay, so here is my setup. On this side you can see just the beginning section of my plan because we're only focusing on the beginning today, so I don't need to look at my middle or my end. And on this side is the worksheet for today. If you don't have this worksheet printed out, you can just get a piece of scrap paper. I've got just like a piece of paper here and you can use that for your brainstorm. So it says, using your plan, first brainstorm some powerful descriptive phrases and words you can use in the beginning of your story. So let me have a look at what I'm going to need to describe. First is the setting. It's present day London and Alia is at school. So what am I going to need to describe? I'm going to just need to describe London, I need to describe the school and other things about the setting like the weather, what it looks like, what it smells like. So what are some descriptive phrases that I'm going to need to use? What kind of mood do I want to set? Probably the beginning of the story, something bad's about to happen. So I'm going to create a moody kind of a scene. So, and because we're in London, I'm going to assume it's probably raining. So I could say a cold rainy day. And this is an example of a expanded noun phrase. I've got rainy. I've got two adjectives, cold and rainy, to describe the day. So that's an expanded noun phrase. And I'm going to say this is a great descriptive phrase that's going to set the tone. It's a cold rainy day with grey clouds rolling across the sky. I've added a prepositional phrase with grey clouds scrolling across the sky. So that's kind of describing the setting. I'm going to say in the suburbs of London, because that's kind of where I live, I know what that is. So the suburbs is like where we live in Harrow. Suburbs of London. And Alia's at school, so how am I going to describe the school? Where is she going to be? Actually, she's going to be in the playground. So the playground is big and chock full of children who are screaming and running with glee. So I've got some descriptive phrases for my setting. Then I need to describe the character. So if I close my eyes and I imagine Alia, what does she look like? I imagine her to have caramel colour skin with sleek black hair. And I think because her character's going to cry a lot in the story, it would be nice if I gave her really big eyes. So she's got eyes like, now this is a description I'm actually magpieing from Harry Potter, one of my favourite books. The character called Dobby, who's an elf, he's always described as having eyes like orbs. So I'm going to steal that phrase. You're allowed to do that, it's creative writing. Eyes like orbs. What colour orbs should they be? I think it would be nice if she had green eyes with a caramel skin. So she had eyes like green orbs that were always observing. Because she cares about people, because she's compassionate. I want her always to be observing. What else could I use as a descriptive phrase? I've got lots of expanded noun phrases. I've got lots of adjectives. I've got one simile, eyes like green orbs. Anything else that could help with description? Well, I haven't got any adverbs yet, and in the build-up there's going to be lots of action. So the kid that fell over, so let's say the little boy. So I'm going to try and use powerful verbs and adverbs. I'm going to say the little boy tumbled chaotically to the ground and screamed out in pain. So this is going to be what happens when he falls over. Now you've seen me give you an example of how to do it, I want you to look at your own plan and your own story, not mine, not Evie in the Jungle, your plan, and brainstorm some powerful descriptive phrases for each section: your setting, your character, and your build-up. Once you're finished, press play on this video again, but make sure you do that first. So now I've got enough phrases. I've got some phrases to describe the setting, some phrases to describe the character, and some phrases to describe the build-up. I need to use this, my plan and my phrases, together while I'm writing to help inspire me. So I'm going to keep these up on the screen. And now I'm going to start writing my actual story. Okay, so here is my sheet where I'm going to be actually writing my story, and then I've got my plan on the screen and my brainstorm of vocabulary and phrases for description on the other side of the screen. You might not have it on your screen, you might just keep your pieces of paper here, your plan and your brainstorm, but make sure that you can see everything while you're writing. So I'm going to start my writing. Hopefully you can see from the camera. Now, because we're doing a draft, every time you write a story, you might have to make a lot of changes later, to make it better. So I'm going to start by writing on this line here. I'm going to leave a space after my li, and I'm going to put a dot in every other line, so I remember to skip a line each time. That gives me space to do corrections later. So I'm going to write on alternate lines. So I know that I want to start off with describing my setting, and I've got the phrase, a cold rainy day with grey clouds rolling across the sky. I think that's quite a nice opening. So I'm going to start off by writing, it was, and look, I'm using my joined up handwriting, a cold rainy day with, and I'm actually going to add even more description because I can. Instead of just saying grey clouds, I'm going to say with dark grey clouds. And look, I'm skipping a line. Now I have to refer back to my plan, okay? I don't want to get too carried away with my writing. I'm enjoying it, but I need to make sure I still keep following my plan. So I know that I want to mention the suburbs of London, and that Alia is in the playground at school. So I can actually go to talking about Alia now. I'm actually going to describe her. Even though I planned at first to describe the setting, remember in the beginning you need to describe the setting, the character and the build-up, but you can slightly mix up the order if you want. So I'm going to say, a little girl
with caramel skin and sleek black hair.
Now I'm going to go back to my setting. Now I'm going to carry on, making sure that I keep referring back to my plan, use all my descriptive phrases, add more if I can, and go all the way describing the setting, the character, and the build-up. In a second, I'm going to finish this on my own, and then I'm going to read it to you. So this is what I ended up with. It was a cold, rainy day with dark grey clouds scrolling across the sky. A little girl with caramel skin and sleek black hair was playing in the playground at her school. This girl's name was Alia, and she had huge eyes like green orbs that were always observing. The school was in the suburbs of London, so it was mostly quiet, but the playground itself was chock full of children who were running and screaming with glee. Alia was enjoying her break time. Suddenly, a little boy on the other side of the playground tumbled chaotically to the ground and screamed out in pain. Alia watched, waiting for someone to go and help him, but no one did. Perhaps she was the only one who had seen it. She dashed over to the boy. His right knee was streaming with blood, and he looked distressed. Anxiously, Alia asked, "Are you okay?" He shook his head, and he looked so helpless that Alia's own eyes welled up with tears. She leant down to peer at his knee, when one of her salty tears landed on the boy's knee. To everyone's surprise, as soon as the tear landed on his skin, the blood vanished. His skin was healed. But how? The boy stared at Alia. "Whoa," he said. "You're magic." So hopefully you were all able to see how I used my plan and my brainstorm to create an exciting piece of writing, hopefully a good beginning to a story, using lots of description and following my plan. So now it's time for you to have a go. Do not use my story, do not use Evie in the Jungle. I want you to use your own plan that you created yesterday and your own brainstorm that you worked on earlier today. And I want you to pause this video and go ahead and spend 20 to 30 minutes writing your beginning, and stop when you get to the end of the build-up, so don't go on to the middle just yet. Good luck! Once you're finished, don't forget to take a picture of your work and send it in to me to have a look at. And please keep this piece of work safe, because it's the beginning of the story that we're going to carry on with tomorrow, so you don't want to lose all the hard work that you've done.